The Great Hall of Horizon's Edge space station was filled with beings from two worlds. On one side stood the humans, dressed in simple dark uniforms. On the other side stood the Valorians, towering giants with silver skin and 4 powerful arms. They looked like gods carved from metal. Each one stood over 7 feet tall, and their eyes glowed with a soft blue light. For 10 years, these two species had pointed weapons at each other across the stars. No full war had come, but many soldiers had died in small battles along the border. Now, after months of talking, they have found a way to make peace. It was an old way, used by many civilizations throughout history. A marriage between their people. Princess Yuna of House Veloth stood at the center of her people. She was tall even among Valorians, and her silver skin had a faint golden shine that marked her royal blood. Her forearms were crossed over her chest, and her face showed no emotion. She was a warrior, trained since childhood to fight and lead. She had killed her first enemy at the age of 15. Now she was being given to a human like a gift. She looked across the hall at the human delegation. They seemed so small, so weak. Their soft skin came in different shades of brown and pink, easily cut and bruised. They had only 2 arms. They lived such short lives. How could the galaxy take them seriously? Then she saw him, the man who would be her husband. Kang Do-yoon walked forward from the human group. He was average height for a human, which made him look like a child next to the Valorians. His black hair was neatly combed, and he wore the same simple uniform as the others. There was nothing special about him. No medals on his chest. No impressive title announced before his name. He was just a man. Yuna felt her heart sink. Both of them. The Valorian nobles behind her began to whisper. She could hear their words clearly. This is their offering? A common soldier? They insult us. They send us their garbage. The princess deserves a king, not a servant. Yuna kept her face still, but inside she burned with shame. Her father, Emperor Taiwan, had asked her to do this for their people. She had agreed because she trusted him. But now she wondered if the humans were mocking them. Emperor Taiwan stepped forward. He was old for a Valorian, his silver skin now gray in places. But his voice was still strong. We welcome the representative of the Terran Confederacy. May this union bring peace to both our peoples. Do-hyun bowed deeply. When he spoke, his voice was calm and quiet. Thank you, Emperor. I am honored to be here. I hope I can be worthy of this responsibility. One of the Valorian generals laughed. His name was Hyok, and he had fought against humans for years. He hated them. Worthy? Look at yourself, human. You are small and soft. Your bones would break in a Valorian child's grip. How can you be worthy of anything? The other Valorians laughed. Yuna waited for the human to react, to show anger, to defend himself. Do-hyun simply bowed again. You may be right, General. I'm not much to look at. But I am here to build peace, not to impress anyone. Hyok's smile faded. He had wanted a reaction. Anger he could use. Instead, the human gave him nothing. The ceremony continued. Do-hyun and Yuna stood before the council while words were spoken in both languages. They exchanged tokens of their agreement. Yuna gave him a crystal blade, a symbol of Valorian honor. Do-hyun gave her a small earth flower preserved in glass, a symbol of growth and hope. She almost crushed it in her grip. A flower. While she gave him a weapon, he gave her a weed. When the ceremony ended, Yuna turned to walk away. She did not want to speak to this human. But her father's hand on her shoulder stopped her. Daughter, Taiwan said quietly, give him a chance. I chose him for a reason. What reason, father? He is nothing. Perhaps. Or perhaps there is more to him than we can see. The old emperor's eyes were thoughtful. The humans survived on a world that tried to kill them. They crawled out of mud and reached the stars in just a few thousand years. Do not judge them by their size. Yuna said nothing. She did not believe her father, but she would obey him. That night, she walked past Do-Han's quarters on the station. The door was open, and she saw him sitting alone, looking out at the stars. He had removed his jacket, and she could see his bare arms. She stopped. His arms were covered in scars, burn marks, deep cuts that had healed badly, the marks of violence and pain. These were not the arms of a soft man who had never seen battle. As if sensing her presence, Do-Hyun turned. For a moment, their eyes met. Then, slowly, he pulled his sleeves down to cover the scars. "Princess," he said with a small bow. "Can I help you?" Yuna stared at him for a long moment. "Who are you?" she asked. He smiled, but there was something sad in it. "Just a man who wants peace, princess. Nothing more." She did not believe him, but she walked away without another word. Tomorrow they would travel to her homeworld. Tomorrow her new life would begin with this strange, scarred human. She did not know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt something other than shame. She felt curious. Velith Prime was a world of warriors. The cities were made of dark crystal that rose into the sky like swords pointed at the heavens. Everywhere Do-Hyun looked, he saw statues of ancient heroes, training grounds where young Valorians fought, and weapons displayed like art. He had been on this world for 3 months now. 3 months of living in a small room far from his wife's chambers. 3 months of being watched, judged, and found weak. The Valorian court called him the human shadow. They said he was a ghost that followed the princess, bringing shame wherever he went. He heard the whispers. He saw the looks. He said nothing. Every week, warriors came to challenge him. It was their custom. A husband represented his wife's honor, and any man could test that honor through combat. If Do-Hyun refused, it was seen as cowardice. If he fought and lost, it would shame Yuna. If he fought and won, it would be seen as luck or trickery. He refused every challenge. "The human runs again," General Hyok announced one day in the Great Hall. He stood before the court with a young warrior beside him. "My nephew wishes to test the princess's consort. Surely the human will not refuse a boy of only 20 years. The court laughed. Do-Hyun stood alone near the back, wearing simple clothes while everyone else wore armor and fine robes. He looked at the young warrior. The boy was eager, hungry for glory. He wanted to be the one who broke the human. "I respectfully decline," Do-Hyun said, his voice calm. The laughter grew louder. Hyok's smile was cold. "Of course you do. What else can we expect from a species that hides behind machines and tricks? You have no honor. You have no pride. You are nothing." Do-Hyun bowed and left the hall. He could feel their eyes on his back, burning with contempt. That night, Yuna came to his room. She did not knock. She simply walked in, her forearms tight with anger. "Why?" she demanded. "Why do you let them treat you like dirt? Do you have no pride at all?" Do-Hyun was sitting by the window, reading from a small device. He put it down and looked at her. "Princess, please, sit." "I do not want to sit. I want answers." She stepped closer, towering over him. "Every day, my people mock me because of you. They say I married a coward. They say House Velith has fallen. My own family looks at me with pity. And you do nothing. What would you have me do? Fight. Show them you are not weak. Show them that humans have some value." Do-Hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he stood and walked to the window. Outside, the twin moons of Velith Prime hung in the purple sky. "When I was young," he said slowly, "I fought in many battles. I killed many enemies. Some of them were Valorians. He turned to look at her. I was very good at killing, Princess. Perhaps the best my people had. Yuna stared at him. There was something in his eyes now. Something cold and distant. But I made a promise, he continued. When I agreed to this marriage, I promised that I would not raise my hand against your people. Not for pride. Not for honor. Not for any reason except to protect innocent lives. He paused. If I fight your warriors, I will hurt them. Maybe kill them. And then there will be no peace. There will only be more death. You think you could kill Valorian warriors? You? Yuna almost laughed. I know I could. His voice was flat, certain. That is why I do not fight. Something in his tone made Yuna stop. She looked at this small, quiet man, and for a moment, she saw something else behind his gentle face. Something dangerous. Then it was gone, and he was just Do-hyun again, soft-spoken and calm. The peace matters more than my pride, Princess, he said. I hope one day you will understand that. Yuna left without another word. But she could not stop thinking about what she had seen in his eyes. The next week, General Hyuk called Do-hyun to a meeting. He said the Emperor wanted to organize a royal hunt in the Blackstone Wilds, and the human consort was expected to attend. It is tradition, Hyuk explained with a smile that showed too many teeth. The royal family hunts together. You are part of that family now, are you not? Do-hyun agreed to go. He had no choice. The night before the hunt, Yuna received a message on her private channel. It was from an unknown source, but the words were clear. Your husband will not return from the Blackstone Wilds. The peace dies with him. Yuna's blood turned cold. She ran to warn Do-hyun, but his room was empty. The hunt had already begun. She grabbed her weapons and called for her personal ship. As she flew toward the Blackstone Wilds, she prepared herself for what she would find. A body, a dead human, the end of peace. She did not expect what was waiting for her. The Blackstone Wilds earned their name from the dark rocks that covered the land like the bones of dead giants. Strange creatures lived here, predators with too many teeth and eyes that glowed in the dark. It was a dangerous place. Perfect for hunting. Perfect for murder. Yuna's ship landed at the edge of a clearing. She jumped out before the engine stopped, her weapons ready. The royal guards who had come with Do-hyun were supposed to be here. She saw their ships, empty and silent. Then she saw the bodies. 6 Valorian guards lay on the ground. Their armor was torn open. Their weapons lay broken beside them. They had been killed quickly by someone who knew exactly where to strike. Yuna's heart pounded. She moved forward, following the trail of destruction. More bodies appeared. Not guards this time, but warriors in black armor with no markings. Assassins, professional killers from the underground. Markets of the outer systems. 1, 3, 5, 8. All dead. She found the last 4 in a wide clearing surrounded by black stones. They lay in a circle, their bodies twisted in death. Standing in the center, breathing hard, was Kang Do-hyun. He was covered in blood. Most of it was purple, the color of Valorian blood, but some of it was red. His red, a deep cut ran across his left arm. Another wound bled through his torn shirt. His face was pale, and she could see the purple veins spreading under his skin. Poison, but he was alive. And 12 elite assassins were not. Princess, he said, his voice rough. You should not be here. Yuna could not speak. She could only stare at the scene around her. 12 assassins. Each one trained to kill from birth. Each one equipped with the best weapons money could buy. They had been sent to murder one human. They had failed. How? She finally whispered. Do-hyun swayed on his feet. The poison was working through his body, but he forced himself to stay standing. They expected a soft diplomat. They got something else. Who are you? The same question she had asked months ago. This time, she needed an answer. He looked at her, and his general mask fell away completely. She saw the man underneath. The killer. The survivor. My people called me Black Phoenix, he said. During the border wars, I led a special unit. We did the jobs no one else could do. Rescue missions, sabotage, assassination. He paused. At the Battle of Titan Station, my team held off Valorian forces for 72 hours. 300 of us against 10,000 of your warriors. When it was over, only 11 of us were still alive. Yuna remembered that battle. Every Valorian did. It was supposed to be an easy victory, but instead, it had become a nightmare. The human defenders had fought like demons. They had used every trick, every trap, every dirty tactic to survive. The Valorian commanders had called them monsters. And their leader was standing in front of her. Your people call that battle a tragedy, Do-hyun said. A stain on Valorian honor. But for humans, it was a victory. We proved that we could fight, that we were not easy prey. His legs buckled and he fell to one knee. The scars you saw, they are from that day. Burns from plasma fire. Cuts from Valorian blades. Reminders of what I am. Yuna moved forward and caught him before he collapsed completely. His body was hot with fever. The poison was killing him. Why did you hide this? She demanded. Why let everyone mock you? Because peace is more important than pride. He looked up at her, and even now, dying, his eyes were calm. If your people knew who I was, they would never accept me. Old hatreds would rise again. The treaty would fail. He coughed, blood on his lips. I buried Black Phoenix so that others could live. That was my choice. Yuna lifted him in her 4 arms. He weighed almost nothing compared to a Valorian. So small, so fragile. Yet he had killed 12 assassins with that fragile body. You are the biggest fool I've ever met, she said. Probably, he agreed with a weak smile. She carried him to her ship and flew toward the capital at full speed. The palace doctors could save him if she reached them in time. She pushed the engines harder than they were meant to go. For the first time in her life, Princess Yuna prayed, not to the old gods of war and honor, but to whatever force had kept this strange human alive. Do not die, she told him. That is an order. Do-hyun's eyes were closed, but his lips moved. As you command, Princess. Behind them, General Hyok received word that his assassins had failed. The human was still alive. The princess knew about the attack. His plan was falling apart. He stood in his command room, surrounded by loyal soldiers. If the subtle approach had failed, he would try something more direct. Prepare the fleet, he ordered. Tonight we take the throne. The coup had begun. The explosions started at midnight. Yuna was in the medical wing, watching doctors work on Do-hyun's poisoned body, when the first blast shook the palace. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Emergency lights painted everything in red. What is happening? She demanded. A guard burst through the door, his armor smoking from a plasma hit. General Hyok has attacked the palace, Princess. His forces have taken the main gates. The Emperor. He stopped, breathing hard. The Emperor has been captured. Yuna felt the world tilt. Her father. In the hands of that traitor. How many loyal guards do we have? Maybe 50, Princess. The rest were killed or have joined Hyok. The guard looked at Do-hyun on the medical table. The general is broadcasting across all channels. He says the humans attacked the Emperor. He's calling for war. Lies, all lies. But lies could start wars just as easily as truth. A weak voice came from the table. Princess. The door. Yuna turned. Do-hyun was awake, his eyes unfocused but aware. The doctors had stopped the poison, but he was still desperately weak. "Lock the door," he said. "Use the medical beds. Stack them at an angle. It will slow them down. You should rest. I will rest when we are safe." He tried to sit up and nearly fell. Yuna caught him. "How many guards are with us?" "8," the guard reported. "That is enough." Do-hyun looked around the room, seeing things Yuna did not. The air ducts. Too small for Valorians, but they could send drones. Cover them with the metal sheets from that cabinet. The window faces east. The sun will rise in 3 hours. Keep it at your back when fighting. The light will blind them. The Valorian guards looked at each other, confused. They were warriors, trained to charge at enemies with roars and raised weapons. This human was talking about angles and sunlight. "Do as he says," Yuna ordered. Now, they moved. Beds scraped across the floor. Metal sheets were torn from cabinets. The window was checked and secured. Do-hyun stood with Yuna's help. His body shook with effort, but his mind was sharp. "Your people fight for glory," he said to the guards. "Mine fight to survive. Today, we survive. Understand?" The guards nodded slowly. They had heard rumors about what happened in the Blackstone Wilds. 12 assassins dead. They looked at this small, wounded human with new eyes. The first attack came 10 minutes later. HFY soldiers tried to break through the door. The stacked beds slowed them, just as Do-hyun had predicted. The loyal guards fought in the narrow gap, where Valorian strength mattered less than positioning. 3 attackers fell. The rest pulled back. "They will try the air ducts next," Do-hyun said. He was right. Small combat drones came through the vents, only to smash against the metal sheets covering them. Now they will bring heavier weapons. Again, he was right. A plasma cannon appeared at the door, ready to blast through everything. "Down!" Yuna threw herself over Do-hyun as the shot came. The door exploded. Heat washed over them. When she looked up, half the room was on fire. But the attackers had made a mistake. The blast had created smoke. Thick, black smoke that filled the corridor. "Now," Do-hyun said. "Attack now." They cannot see. The guards charged into the smoke. The sounds of combat rang out. Metal on metal. Screams and roars. When the smoke cleared, 8 more of HFY soldiers were dead. This pattern continued for hours. Attack and defense. Trap and counter-trap. Do-hyun directed everything from his position against the wall. Too weak to fight, but never too weak to think. Yuna fought beside her guards, her forearms wielding blade and gun. She had never fought like this before. No glory, no honor duels. Just brutal, desperate survival. She killed 6 enemies herself, and each kill felt different from battles before. Not triumphant, just necessary. As dawn approached, they had fought their way out of the medical wing. They moved through the palace corridors, heading for the throne room where HFY held the emperor. "The Terran fleet has arrived," reported one of the guards, checking his communicator. "Admiral Park Yoonji. She says they are here to support the legitimate government." Yuna glanced at Do-hyun. "Your people came, of course." He leaned against the wall, barely able to stand. "Peace matters to us too. We did not suffer through years of conflict to let one mad general destroy everything." They reached the throne room doors. Inside, HFY waited with his elite guards and the captured emperor. Do-hyun straightened his broken body. He picked up a fallen weapon from the floor. It was far too heavy for him, designed for Valorian hands, but he held it anyway. "I will go first," he said. "You can barely walk, then it will be a surprise." He looked at her, and despite everything, he smiled. "Stay behind me, princess. I have one more fight left in me. He pushed open the doors and walked into the throne room. General HFY stood on the raised platform where the Emperor's throne sat. Emperor Taiwan knelt before him, bound in chains. Around them stood 20 of HFY's best warriors. HFY laughed when he saw Douyin. "The human! Still alive? My assassins were even more useless than I thought." He spread his forearms wide. "Look at you. Wounded, weak, poisoned. You can barely hold that weapon. Do you really think you can stop me?" Douyin kept walking forward. His steps were unsteady, but he did not stop. "I stopped 12 of your best in the Blackstone Wilds," he said. "You will have to do better than this." HFY's smile faded. He drew his sword, a massive blade that hummed with energy. "Then I will kill you myself, human. And when you are dead, I will burn your entire species from the galaxy." The final battle was about to begin. General HFY was a perfect warrior. He had trained since birth. He had won 100 duels. His body was a weapon, and his blade was an extension of his soul. Against him stood a wounded, poisoned human who could barely stand. It should not have been a fight at all. HFY charged with a roar that shook the walls. His blade came down like a falling star, fast enough to cut through steel. Douyin was not there. He had moved the moment HFY's weight shifted, sliding to the side with the last strength in his legs. The blade struck the floor, cracking stone. Douyin's stolen weapon slashed across HFY's arm. Not deep enough to disable, but enough to draw blood. First blood to the human. HFY spun, all 4 arms attacking at once. 2 held blades. 2 were empty, ready to grab and crush. It was a Valorian style that no human could counter. Douyin did not try to counter it. He fell backward, letting the blades pass over him, then rolled under HFY's reach. His weapon found the back of the general's knee. Another shallow cut. "Stand still and fight," HFY roared. No, Douyin was breathing hard. Every movement cost him. The poison was still in his blood, slowing him, weakening him. But his eyes never stopped watching, calculating. Yuna stood at the door with her guards, watching. Part of her wanted to help, but she understood now. This was not just a fight. It was a message. A human standing against a Valorian general, showing both species what was possible. HFY attacked again and again. Each strike was powerful enough to split a man in half. Each strike missed. Douyin moved like water, always where the blade was not. He used pillars for cover. He used the stairs to change height. He used the chains binding the Emperor as a trap, nearly tangling HFY's feet. But he was getting slower. His wounds were opening. Red blood dripped onto the floor. "You cannot keep running," HFY said. "You are dying, human. Accept it. I have been dying since I was born." Douyin coughed, and there was blood on his lips. Humans live short lives. Our bodies break easily. Our world tried to kill us with ice and fire and disease. We should have died 1,000 times. He raised his weapon, but we did not. We survived. We learned. We reached the stars. And we will not stop now. He charged. It was unexpected, foolish. HFY's blade was ready, and he thrust forward with all his strength. The blade went through Douyin's shoulder. But Douyin did not stop. He pushed forward, driving himself further onto the blade, getting closer. His weapon came up and pressed against HFY's throat. The general froze. "How?" HFY whispered. "You let me stab you. Pain is temporary." Douyin's voice was steady, even as blood poured from his shoulder. Humans learned that lesson long ago. We endure what others cannot. We pay prices others will not. He pressed his blade harder against HFY's throat. "Surrender. Never. A Valorian warrior does not surrender. Then die." Do-hyun twisted his body. His weapon slashed across Hyok's throat. The general's eyes went wide. He tried to speak, but only blood came out. His massive body fell backward and did not move again. For a moment, the throne room was silent. Then Do-hyun collapsed. Yuna ran to him, catching him before he hit the ground. His eyes were closed. His breathing was shallow. The blade was still in his shoulder, and blood was everywhere. "Doctor!" she screamed. "Get a doctor now." The guards rushed forward. Some freed the emperor. Others secured Hyok's remaining soldiers, who surrendered without resistance. Their leader was dead. Their coup had failed. Emperor Taiwan walked to where his daughter held her human husband. He looked old and tired, but his eyes were thoughtful. "He saved us all," Taiwan said quietly. "This small, fragile human." "He is not fragile," Yuna said. Tears ran down her silver cheeks. "He's the strongest person I have ever known." The doctors came. They worked on Do-hyun for hours while the sun rose over the palace. Outside, the Terran fleet stood guard alongside loyal Valorian ships. The war that Hyok wanted would not come. Peace would continue. 3 days later, Do-hyun woke up. He was in a new room, bigger, brighter. Windows looked out over the palace gardens. Yuna sat beside his bed, reading from a small device. "Princess," he said. His voice was rough. She looked up, and her face showed something he had never seen before. Relief, joy, love. "You are awake." She set down her device. "The doctors said you would heal. Your people are surprisingly good at surviving. Practice." He tried to smile. "Where are we?" "My chambers." "Our chambers." She took his hand in her 4 fingers. "I had you moved here. If you do not like it, that is too bad. You are staying." He laughed weakly. "As you command, princess." They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, birds sang in the garden. The sounds of reconstruction could be heard in the distance. The palace was being repaired. The empire was being healed. "Why did you do it?" Yuna finally asked. "You could have died. You almost did die. Why fight like that?" Do-hyun thought about the question. "When I agreed to this marriage, I did not expect anything. I thought I would live quietly, be ignored, and hopefully keep the peace through my presence." He turned to look at her. "But then I met you, proud, strong, beautiful, stubborn, and I realized I wanted more than just peace between our peoples." "What did you want?" "You." He squeezed her hand. "I wanted to be worthy of you, not by Valorian standards, not by fighting for glory or honor, but by protecting what matters, by being someone you could respect." Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. It was a Valorian gesture of deep affection, usually reserved for family. "I was wrong about you," she said. "I thought you were weak. I thought humans were beneath us. But you showed me something I never understood before." "What is that?" "True strength is not about size or power. It is about what you are willing to sacrifice for others." She pulled back and looked into his eyes. "You are the bravest person I have ever met, Kang Do-hyun. And I am proud to call you my husband." He smiled, and this time there was no sadness in it. Only warmth. 1 month later, the peace treaty was renewed. It was stronger than before, built on blood and sacrifice and understanding. Both species had seen what they could lose. Both had chosen something better. Do-hyun was offered medals and titles by both governments. He refused them all. He asked only to stay on Velith Prime with his wife, to help build bridges between their peoples. On the day of the renewal ceremony, Yuna found him in the palace gardens. He was sitting by a fountain, feeding small birds that had learned he was not dangerous. She sat beside him. The council wants to name a holiday after you. Please, tell them no. I already did. They were very confused. She watched the birds land on his hands. What are you thinking about? Nothing important. Just enjoying the quiet. She leaned against him, her silver shoulder touching his scarred one. I never thought I would say this to a human, but I love you, Do-Yun. He turned and kissed her forehead. I love you too, Yuna. The birds flew away as the twin suns began to set. The war god had found his peace. And across the stars, two species that had once pointed weapons at each other now looked toward a future together. Not because they were forced to, but because one small, stubborn human had shown them what was possible.